Ready to elevate your credit understanding and score? With insider tips and a plan, you can take action to improving your score, which can save thousands in unnecessary finance charges. Let's tackle today's topic with your coach, Credit Christy.
Hey friends, it's Christy, your credit coach. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Today, let's talk about bad debt and how to eliminate that thing. We've got bad debt that are things that don't necessarily get you ahead in life. It's credit card debt that isn't paid off in full every single month, and you bring that balance forward every month, almost like an installment loan, or student loans that were for a degree that you're not even using. College isn't for everybody, and sometimes we don't figure that out until the other side of college and, tens of thousands of dollars in student loans. Maybe car payments that, hate car payments. Anything that drains you rather than helps you get ahead. For most people, we pay rent or a mortgage, so oftentimes a mortgage has you owning your own home where you can build equity, and eventually that loan is paid off and you own that property free and clear. So a mortgage, I would say, is good debt. A student loan for something that requires some kind of education, like a veterinarian, an attorney, something that requires that very specific education. But going to college just for the sake of going to college because we're not quite sure what else to do with our life, well, that could get quite costly and actually have that debt falling under bad debt. Now, it's not just numbers, it's the stress of servicing debt. In other words, a lot of your take-home pay going to pay for things that you already have but haven't quite paid for yet, like on those credit card bills. I'm meeting and talking with people that have tens of thousands of dollars of credit card balances that are rolling forward every single month because they can't seem to get that balance down. It buries your dreams underneath this debt because it keeps you from being able to take chances or greater risks because you're stuck maybe in a job paying bills that have racked up and you don't have the cash flow to take some additional chances. Quite frankly, if you've got a lot of debt, it can actually physically feel like shame. So I was listening to an older episode, but a goodie, on Bigger Pockets not too long ago, listening how this young lady had paid down $40,000 worth of credit card debt. It was quite inspiring. And, we could do big chunk payoffs, right? You get a side hustle, there's a bonus, a tax refund, you sell something, and you can slam that or throw it against your debt. And that's where you're going to make a really big dent. But aside from those opportunities, the most of the payoff is going to be a steady payoff over time. And this might require you to adjust your lifestyle a little bit, reduce some expenses, even if just temporarily, or maybe even living under your means. You might even possibly need to change your living situation. Again, it can be temporary. So let me give you an example. I was talking to a doctor, and when he was a resident and still going through, his schooling and finishing up his time there, wasn't making a tremendous amount of money, but making a decent income. And even aside from the student loans, there just wasn't anything extra for him to set aside for his bigger goals. He wanted to buy a home. He did want to have some money to pay off towards that debt, and wanted to be debt-free otherwise, right? No car payment, no credit card bills, those kinds of things. Well, then he finishes his residency term and becomes a full-fledged medical professional and making a lot more money. Well, guess what? Even though he was earning probably double at this point, he still didn't have a way to save money. You want to know why? Because the more money he earned, the more money he spent. He started upgrading everything in his life, right? Now he's got the $1,000 a month lease payment for the import that he really desired. He's renting this really beautiful home at $5,000 a month. The outflow was matching his inflow. And so I'm wondering if that's the same for you. Is your outflow matching your inflow? Because if that's the case, there's nothing extra then to put down towards paying off those extra bills. So think about reducing your expenses. Live below your means. If you can afford a $2,000 a month rent, maybe go for the $1,700 rental. Maybe there's some luxuries that you can eliminate in your life just for now. Maybe you get your nails done or pedicures or, facials, massages, anything along those lines. I really do believe in, and I'm an advocate for self-care. So don't get me wrong here, but maybe cutting out some of those expenses so it can go towards paying off those debts can help you make a bigger dent. Maybe instead of driving a brand new car with the never-ending payment, I'm seeing a lot of people financing their cars 72 months out. It makes me crazy. Maybe get an older car that you could pay off pretty quickly, or maybe even buy in cash. Maybe you could think about doing a house hack. It's where you have your own home, whether you own it or you're the person responsible on the rental agreement, and rent out some rooms. That way your housing costs are reduced or even eliminated, and you can put all that extra money towards paying off your debt. Think about an income boost. Don't just cut your expenses, maybe create some income opportunities. So if overtime or bonus income isn't part of where you're at, maybe you can get some short-term gigs. Think about the things that you are masterful in your life, and maybe you can monetize that and get paid for the expertise that you have. But along with this, it becomes a mindset shift. Know that you are more than what your credit score is or what your debt amount is. And make sure you don't accidentally equate that to the value or worth that you are in this world. And as you're starting to formulate your plan, have a purpose-driven goal. So when you do eliminate this bad debt, you get to reclaim those dollars. And what do you want it for? Do you want to put it towards your fun bucket? Do you want to put it towards a down payment for that fancy car that you do want, or that next home, or your first home? Or maybe you want to make an impact in your community where you can align your finances with your faith and your service and your commitment to others. So what does that look like in real life? Well, this particular article on Bigger Pockets, this person paid off around $40,000 of student loans and credit card debt, and she did it in 2 years. So how did she do it? The hard way. I've got several pounds to lose that are hanging around my body. I know what it takes. I've got to eat making better choices, right? More protein, less carbs. And I need to be active with my body, working out. I know how to do it. The knowing is the easy part. The doing is the hard part, right? So if you know all of these things, you're nodding your head saying, yeah, Christy, this is nothing new. But are you applying it in your life? Are you in action for it? Because this young lady, she lived frugally. She packed her meals. She had girls' night in, bought an $8 bottle of wine to share with her girlfriend rather than an $8 glass of wine out plus tip. She house hacked. She rented out rooms and used that money to pay off her student loans and her credit cards. She was throwing every extra dollar at her debt. So, think about it. If you could trim back your expenses by $200-$300 a month and maybe do an extra gig or some side hustle or a part-time job and make $500-$700 a month. You've got $800 to maybe $1,000 a month going towards eliminating debt. If you have $25,000 in student loan debt, you could potentially eliminate the majority of that in 2 years. That would feel amazing. So it doesn't matter if you have $5,000 or $50,000 in debt, the principles hold true. Think about it this way. You're not giving up anything in your life. You're taking back your life sooner. See, you have a goal, you have a mission you want to accomplish, but this way you can spend on your terms and get out from underneath that bad debt that just feels gross. Debt isn't just a financial burden. It can have a lot of emotional attachment to it as well. So we've got to rename it, right? Stop saying, I'm in debt, I'm buried in debt. Maybe start reframing that verbiage to, I'm working my way out of debt. That simple shift, it changes how your brain sees options. Make sure you write down your why. Just one sentence. I want to be debt-free so that I can, what? What kind of freedom will that bring in your life? And maybe post that or write that on your mirror so you can see it every single day. Perhaps you can share this with somebody that you feel safe talking with. Accountability really breeds action and follow through. So think about telling one person that it feels safe in sharing about your goal this week. Perhaps you can list out every single debt. List out who you owe the money to, that creditor, the balance, that minimum payment, and also list out that interest rate. You can plug that into ChatGPT or a Google Sheet and then create your debt payoff planner. So, add it all up. Is it painful? Heck yes. Is it necessary? Absolutely. You can't fight what you won't face. And seeing it in black and white can then help you start in your payoff strategy. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. The debt snowball that is made famous by Dave Ramsey, start with paying off that smallest debt first for the quick wins. And then that minimum payment you were putting to it, $20, $30, $45 a month. Once that balance is zero, you add that payment to your next smallest debt and then snowball it moving forward. Debt avalanche is a way to pay off your highest interest rate first. So that way the majority then of your payments each month are going towards reducing that principal because you're eliminating that highest interest debt first. So if you do have a small little or a couple little credit cards, get those gone first and then maybe switch to that avalanche method, knocking out the highest interest. If you've got a couple of credit cards or student loans that are around the same balance, but maybe one has a much higher interest rate. Also, something that has the largest payment, maybe pay that off first so you can take that payment and slam it against the other ones more quickly. Think about finding cash that you already have in a more practical way. So maybe audit your subscriptions. There's companies out there that can scrape through your auto payments, right? And then they can cancel things that you forgot that even existed. Those little $10 here and $20 there, it all adds up. Maybe consider downgrading one expense. Maybe changing your insurance, downgrading your internet plan, streaming plan. Maybe shop for a new cell phone service. I was paying like $75, $80 a month with Verizon, and then I went over to Spectrum. It's using the Verizon system. It cost me $40 a month. It's the same exact network. It's just crazy. All of those littles, they add up. Maybe you can sell something, throw something on Facebook Marketplace and bring in a couple $100 and throw that at your bills. You might even be able to negotiate on a bill. Maybe call your insurance company, internet provider, cell phone company, and ask them if they're giving any current promotions to new clients and new customers and see if they will give you a loyalty discount. True story, you can save a lot of money this way. And then just keep building on that momentum, my friends. Create this first couple action steps, and then once you're in movement, keep going with it. Maybe pick your top 2 debts and focus every dollar on going there. Pay early, pay extra. Even if you've got a little $10 sitting in your checking account, throw it at your credit card, make it go away. Even just an extra $10 here, $25 there, it helps cut that interest down faster. With those little micro payments, maybe doing it weekly, it will really help you start seeing an improvement. And then track your wins. Celebrate those wins. Just don't go spend a lot of money to go celebrate, all right? And then protect your progress. Consider no new debt. Maybe freeze your credit cards in a bag of water. Yes, literally, it takes 24 hours to thaw it out, and maybe you'll rethink the next time you want to impulse shop. I know some people, when they get bored or sad, they find themselves walking around in a store. Find something else you can do. Create some habits and hobbies that don't require you swiping your credit card at a store to buy more junk to put in your house that you don't need, and you just thought that you wanted it because for a moment it made you happy, and now it just made you more in debt. And then once you've made a big impact here, my friends, start on your emergency fund if you don't have one. $1,000 is your first milestone, and follow a monthly budget. Write out where your money, your take-home cash is going to so you can see where you can cut. And then once your cash flow starts to improve a little bit, now you can start dreaming and scheming about the bigger things in life. So debt-free isn't just a number, it's a mindset. And when you're no longer a slave to payments, you have margin to give and to be free and to dream again. Freedom honors the giver, not the lender. So we don't want to be a slave to the lender. So do this. Share with somebody a really big goal that you're going to accomplish and that you're going to get started in this week. And then by sharing it, you've got some accountability. Get excited about it, feel empowered by it, and get into action right away. If you'd like to know more about really important habits and tips on how you can finish financially free, go to Amazon, put on my name, check out my book, Finish Financially Free. It's got some great tips in there that you can start implementing to change your life right away. Friends, I want to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And until next time, stay well.
Subscribe now and share with a friend to stay in the loop for new credit content and insider tips to maximize your credit knowledge. And follow Credit Christie on Instagram.